Hi friends, welcome back to the Holistic Pine Live. I'm Anulal, your host. I'm a teacher, entrepreneur and writer. Welcome back to another session of the Holistic Pine Live. Hey friends, how are you? Welcome back. Today we have a very special session. Today is Litari Sunday, the mid day of the season of Lent, and also today is St. Joseph's Day. So I wish all of you a wonderful, blessed evening and a blessed Sunday. Today we will be meeting a very special guest in this live session, a young dynamic author, Sredhanea Ramkrishnan, who's the author of The Cord, the novel which was published the previous year. Sredhanea Ramakrishnan's debut historical fiction, The Cord, won the Best Aspiring Author Award from the Cherry Book Awards, the Rising Author of the Year Award by Priya's Wisdom Publications, Budding Author of the Year by JEC Publications. She was also awarded Young Author of the Year by CLA Global Awards and Emerging Author of the Year Fiction Award from Kyoto Publishing. And she is also selected as the Inspirational Personality of 2023 by Writers Kalam Publishing. So we will be meeting her today in this session, and the whole team of Writers Kalam is going to join us. Team Writers Kalam and Sredhanea Rama get back. We are going to, have a great conversation today. Once again, I wish you all a great day. And let's begin our conversation. Let's come together and let's talk about some very important ideas, very important concepts, and let's ask some very important questions to the young, dynamic, beautiful author Sredhanea Ramakrishnan. She is, I think, here already. Let me add all of them. First of all, let me see if Writers Kalam team is here. I'll add all of them to the live session. Okay, I will be adding Sredhanea is here already. So we will be adding her right now. Hey guys, how are you?
Hello. Good evening, sir. How are you? How are you?
Good evening. Going good. Let's add our special guest now.
Yes, sir.
Our special guest is going to be here
special guest
soon.
is here, and she is a part of Tribute Edition also. So
yay!
Let's welcome her. Yes.
Wow.
How are you?
Awesome.
Hi.
Going good.
Hello.
Hi, Ankush. Hi.
Hi, Sredhanea. How are you?
Hi, Lalji. Hi.
Sredhanea, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
We all
if
are
I'm not
well.
mistaken, you had another live session today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, busy. You are busy, and why not? Because your book, The Cord, is making ripples, waves.
Thank you. I'm happy.
I was giving an
grateful.
introduction.
Yeah.
I was giving an introduction to the audience, and the introduction had in itself a lot of awards, a lot of acclamations, a lot of metal in it. So let me once again go through a few of her achievements. And the reason why Sredhanea is the Inspirational Personality of the Year 2023 by Writers Kalam Publishing is because at a very young age she has set a parameter that probably is a model for all young writers. Sredhanea Ramakrishnan's debut historical fiction, The Cord, won the Best Aspiring Author Award from the Cherry Book Awards, the Rising Author of the Year Award by Priya's Wisdom Publications, Budding Author of the Year by JEC Publications. She was also awarded Young Author of the Year by CLA Global Awards and Emerging Author of the Year Fiction Award from Kyoto Publishing. And, many, many more awards to come. And she has recently published her work in our short story anthology published by Writers Kalam Publishing, which was compiled by Ankush ma'am. And the title of that collection was Stories from the Soil, in which the story that Sredhanea wrote was titled Run. And it was a very, very, very enjoyable story. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. Especially if you are somebody who enjoys Tamil literature. Especially, I was reminded of Perumal Murugan, some of the stories by Perumal Murugan when I was reading it. Of course, I don't know how to read Tamil, but I read the English translations of those stories, and her stories. When I was reviewing the Code also, the Coder novel, I was tracing some of those classical elements in her works. And in my blog, I had reviewed her work, and in the review itself, I was, able to connect the dots, certain dots, and connect her work with some of the legendary writers. And that is once again evident in her story, Run. For our audience, let me also tell you, if you want to read her story, latest short story, Run, you can check out my bio, in which our bookstore link is given. You can purchase it from our bookstore, Writers Kalam bookstore. And it's a thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyable story. And it's a wonderful story. There's a beautiful twist at the end, and it's humorous. And at the same time, it can be called, I think it is one of those, so-called, what do you call it? Like in Tamil, I think there's a word for that in Tamil. But I think in English it is like shit stories, right? You can call that if you get, if you want to call that. I got it from Perumal Murugan, sir. I got that particular idea from him. And I think there's a rich tradition in Tamil in that particular area. So I don't want to steal the show here. I don't want to blabber continuously. I want my fellow publishing friends, fellow people to talk a few things, and let's quickly jump into the questions because our audience is eagerly waiting to hear Sredhanea speak. Ankush ma'am, would you like to say a few introductory remarks before we jump into the questions?
Well, I think it is a huge joy to start the Holistic Pine Live with such a beautiful author. The beauty of her writing is seen even in this book itself, Stories from the Soil. Yes. And it is wonderful because she is managing it with a full-time career. And I was really inquisitive to know that how she manages it. Like, it must be difficult. So would you like to tell, it must be very difficult, and that too coming up with an independent book, The Cord, and it is wonderful. Because sir that day was telling me that he had once given a review about that. Yes. So my question, being a woman, and when we thought about the tribute, I believe that Sredhanea can tell a lot to the readers, that how a person can manage passion and career. So what would you like to tell the audience?
Okay. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if the amount of praise that you've put on me, if I'm worth that much praise, and you guys have put me on this really, really high of a pedestal. Okay. But what I would like to say about managing a career and full-time and writing is that, fortunately for me, when I was writing The Cord, I was running my own company. So it was like I was running it so I could make time. Like, I was not on a 9-to-5 job. So that gave me little leeway space with the matter of time. Right? I could use some days when I had more work, I did not write. And one thing that I want people to know about The Cord is it did not happen in 1 year. It did not even happen in a few months or 2 years. It took me 5 years to finish this book. I started this book in
Wow.
20, yeah, yeah, I started this book in 2016, but it is not the
Wow.
same draft. The draft that was there in 2016 is absolutely a very, very different thing from, 2017. The draft that was published in 2022 was not the same draft. It was the seventh draft. The seventh draft
Oh
of my book
my
is what was
God.
published. And the thing that I did,
Unthinkable.
the thing that
Unthinkable because, yeah, continue.
and one thing that I would like to say is all the other six drafts also I was sending out to publishers. It's not like
Wow.
only the seventh draft I was sending out and seventh draft got published. No. All six drafts, every time I wrote, I was sending it out to publisher. The one good thing that I feel had taught me the most in my writing is that I was not editing my drafts. I did not take the existing draft and just edit it. What I did was when I sent it out to publishers and I got no response, I closed the book. I had the plot, I wrote a new entire draft. Because I felt like if I take the old draft and edit it, there'll be, of course, there are going to be parts which are beautiful in the first draft, but I'll be so stuck in that draft that I'll only like change a little bit of here and a little bit of there, and it'll just be like a plastering and a little cutting and a little snipping. I didn't want that for my book, right?
Wow.
So what I did was I just kept it closed. I have all the six drafts with me, and they are not even similar, leave alone being the same. They are not even similar. My seventh draft, the draft that got, usually I used to take like 8 months to write each draft. My last draft that got published, I finished in 3 months because the publishers gave me a deadline. Right?
Oh,
Wow.
Because when
oh,
I was so frustrated with sending out like fully finished drafts, fully finished like the fully finished stories, that I was like, I'm just gonna write 3 chapters, send it out to publishers this time, and I'm going to wait. If someone asks me for the full book, then I will write this entire book. That was what I had planned. So I sent it out, and unfortunately for me, Zero Degree had that confidence in those 3 chapters that they said, give us the book. I was like, I don't have the book yet. I don't have it with me. And they said, how long will you take to finish this book? I said, 3 months. Give me 3 months. And that deadline was what pushed me to finish this book in 3 months. And I still did not believe, after 3 months when I sent them the entire story, this I wrote like, because in the few drafts that were done before, the 6 drafts when I was doing, I was writing in the intention to get published, right? Every time I used to sit and write, I used to think like, is this a good line? Like, will this be picked up by people? Is this interesting? But in the last draft, I did not have the time or the energy to care about that because I had to finish it in the 3 months. My mind, it became like a habit where I just sit for like 1 hour and whatever came to my mind, I wrote. I did not care if this was going to, no, if Zero Degree was going to read it and like it. Nothing came to my mind because I did not have that luxury of time with me. So I just sat, it just became a habit of 3 months where I would like, not even the whole 3 months, trust me. I just used, because I'm also an UPSC aspirant, so I also study and work and write. So for me, like the Saturday and Sunday, like the weekend was the time that I was writing that 7th draft. And I had to like Miss Jayanti, I'm sure all of you guys know Miss Jayanti. She said,
Of course.
do not, overgo that, deadline. That will give a very bad impression on you. So you better write like at least 2 chapters every week. That weekend, 1 chapter per day, 1 chapter you have to write. You have to write. And for me, it was like, so today I have to write 1 chapter. I have to. It's just that. It doesn't matter if the chapter is going to be good chapter, if it's going to come well. It did not matter to me. And fortunately for me, how I wrote those chapters was that usually I write it chronologically. Like I would have already planned what will come in each chapter and what is going to be there. So I would usually have that plan in mind. But this time, because I had the last draft, because I had a very, very small time span, what I did was whatever emotion I woke up with, I know the story, right? Because I've written 6 times. Whatever emotion I woke up with, I knew which chapter would align to that emotion. And I would just write that chapter and keep it. I would not reread it also. What I did, I finished the entire thing in 3 months. I'd sent it out to publishers so that I would not overgo the deadline. I sent it out, and then I sent on the site to an editor, and she was editing all the stuff, the grammatical and all that. And the publishers, 15 days it took for the editor, and I was just wait. I just asked my publisher, "Have you read the draft?" And they said no. I said, "Thank you. Please don't read it. I have an edited version. I will send it to you." Right? So I sent the edited version after that. And then usually publishers, I have had like publishers reply to me, like if I send it to 50 publishers, we'll have like 1 or 2 who will talk to us or like reply to us saying, can we do like a self-publishing deal or like something like that, or like a partnership. Or there were a few publishers which said, no, this does not align with our publishing, idea or whatever. So there were very few answers I would get. But 0 Degree, after I sent this edited copy, 2 days they replied to me saying they are taking this book. I did not expect this. I had like 0 expectations on the part because I had faced enough rejections in those 5 years. I was like, you like it, you don't like it, fine, I'll write another draft. That's all was in my mind. So for
but
me,
the perseverance with which you moved forward, that is as inspiring truly, because for younger writers, for those who are starting out new as a writer, let me just give you a quick tip. You listen to her story and just follow it through, because the way she has explained her journey as a writer, continuously sending her drafts and not even reworking the same draft, but writing new books, in fact, keeping maybe the same idea. That is something I have not heard that from any other author so far, let me tell you. And I
Yes,
have closely
indeed.
watched so many authors,
Yes.
but this is something new that I've heard. I've heard authors like polishing their previous works and sending it again to publishers and all that, but this thing is new, because what I'm seeing here is a commitment to writing and at the same time a detachment, a very healthy detachment with what you have already done. And this is very difficult to achieve for an author, because once you have written a book, you are very attached with it. Every sentence is precious to you. Even in some cases, you are reluctant to even cut out certain sentences. So those things happen. But you are so, in a way, you are in a healthy way detached with the work. You are ready to like write another completely different work, keeping the same idea, forgetting about the previous draft,
the
leaving those
first 2
beautiful
drafts
sentences.
were like that for me,
Yeah.
Anodalji. The first 2
Yeah.
drafts were like that for me. Like when I was cutting certain
Oh.
parts, like see,
Mm.
even though I was writing the second draft, there were like there was one paragraph for
Mm.
some reason in the first draft that I
Mm.
loved very much, and I thought, can I bring that here? And I did that also. One
Mm.
paragraph, and I realized that it was not fitting.
Mm.
It felt very
Mm.
tailored, It felt very, uh, you know stuck
Mm.
together. It did not flow,
Mm.
and I didn't want that for any of my drafts.
Mm.
So that's why I
I think it
decided
was
on that.
Stephen King or Ray Bradbury. I think it was Stephen King who said, "Kill your darlings when you're editing." That's how you do it. Kill your darlings. Kill your darlings. Even when it breaks your egocentric little scribbler's heart, kill your darlings. And I think, that's something that we can see here. Yeah, it is difficult, but you have achieved that. And that is what inspires. And that is something, a very good lesson that young writers can note down here. And you were mentioning regarding the process and also the 7th draft. And I was wondering, when I was reading the draft, the first thing that came to my mind was the economy of words that you've used. Complex emotions were there, ideas, politics. I mean, those who read the code, they know that the book is about Indo-Pak partition, and then 2 families coming together, one person like making an adventure sort of journey. And the idea, I mean, is so complex, but you've used so few words to like paint that picture. So efficient, so effective. You could feel it when you read it. How do you do that? That's the
Okay.
question.
So this is something that I tell everyone. Brevity is
Uh-huh.
not actually my strong suit. That was the hugest challenge I faced, because my first draft, trust me, it was 800 pages. 800-page book it was.
Wow.
And the like for the
No.
first few drafts were like 600, 700 pages, and for me, like I just didn't know how to like shorten it, how to like write it in
Wow.
a few words, and then
Now I understand. Now I understand the difficulty when you said when you were talking about writing one chapter in a week, two chapters in a week, I was thinking what exactly is the big deal? Like they were short chapters. Like now I understand it's an 800-page book and you can't do that in 3 months. Come on,
exactly.
that's impossible. That's Mission Impossible, chapter 5, right?
And I am not a
That's
brief person.
yeah.
Even while talking, I'm
Oh
not
my
a brief
God.
person. So for me, it was like that is
Mm.
exactly what timeline did to me. Like like, I had
Oh.
like 2 hours. So like in 2 hours, I was like, see, this is what I have to write. I have to write in this chapter. These are the most important emotions. I have to write it
Mm.
in this period, shortest as I can,
Mm.
and I will not care about how many pages it comes to. If it comes to
Mm.
8 to 12 pages, fine. If it comes to just 2 pages, it's fine.
Mm.
Unfortunately for me, because you guys know that I run a podcast called LOL, many authors, when I was
Yes.
talking to many authors, they were giving me tips as to like how they use other tools to
Mm.
shorten that description and
Mm.
conversations between people. And I loved it.
Mm.
And while I was writing my drafts, I had only one revelation through all my drafts. I felt like I
Mm.
was my style as as conversations was much stronger than description. So in my
Mm.
seventh draft, I just stuck to it. For all
Mm.
my chapters are conversative. They are not like I don't give like a build up and then start get into the chapter. No, it starts with the conversation. It starts like that.
Yes. Mm.
And I have used like little tools like in my book in the card there are letters. I have attached like letters and I have made
Mm.
those letters look
Yes.
like letters also with the stamp. Instead of having like 3 pages of where a person talks to another person or thinks in his own mind, like and going back in like flashback or
Mm.
something. I thought why don't I just talk about this because when you write a letter, it's gonna be brief. A letter is going to be like 1 page or 1.5 pages maximum, right? So I thought let's have this as a letter instead of this person talking on and on
Mm.
about it. And I felt like a letter would work well. So these were the things that I used to make it short. This is the most challenging thing. This was the most challenging thing for me while writing the code, making it short.
Mm.
And I was scared that it would lose its essence when I was making it short. It would not give the
Mm.
emotions
Yes.
that I wanted it to give. And
Mm.
there were like two people who had read all my 6 drafts. I have like my own family who I'm very close to, and they read all my like my uncle and my another friend of mine who has read like the first few drafts, and they said they actually openly said we are missing that length of your chapters in this. But I said I said, what you both feel I cannot, like the entire audience cannot feel. And people are comfortable with a shorter book than an 800-page book, especially when it is from a debut author. Right? So let's stick to
Yeah,
what
maybe.
right now let's stick to what sells and then let's go to what Danya really is. That's what I told them.
Mm. But yeah, maybe in the future you can definitely, write a longer book too, I guess, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
It would
Yeah.
yeah.
be so
Yes.
interesting. It would be so interesting to
Yeah.
read a longer book because, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think, but yeah, Sridhanya, your journey is like so inspirational. Like all the authors, especially who want to go through traditional publishers, they all get scared or boggled down if their draft is rejected. But 5 years and sticking to that same thing, it is wonderful. And then winning so many awards for it. It I think it is a message to all the new authors who
It
want to
is.
give it a shot. Yes.
Yes, please,
And
all of you aspiring authors. This is one thing. I think like people were asking me to be on social media because I was not available on social media before the like
Mm.
before I was writing a book. I just
Mm.
joined like Instagram like a year before my book got out. 2020 only I joined actually. So
Mm.
what I had when I was scrolling down and all that, and when I was seeing so many stuff, what I had noticed was there were many award, organizations and nominations where they were awarding aspiring authors, not published authors who had a draft but hadn't published it yet, and they were judging that unpublished work. And this was, I think, this worked to my favor while I was trying to publish the code. What I did was I had sent my there were other publishers, other groups where they were awarding like short pieces of like short write-ups and all that. So what I did was I sent whatever I had written till now. I had just sent it to so many places, and out of which like 4 or 5 I had actually won. If you send to 20, you will win 5, right? It's not like I only sent it to 5 and all 5 I won. It's nothing happens like that. So you send to 20 and you win 5. And what happened was, I think this is the reason that Zero Degree even accepted to publish my work, because they didn't know who Sredhanea is. I'm no one to them. If you come and ask see, because I'm a food technologist, if you come and ask someone who's in that industry, they will know me. I am nowhere connected to the publishing industry. I don't have a degree in English. I have nothing to do with literature. And why would a publisher invest money in me when I'm seeking traditional publishing? Why would, for them it is still business. Why would they invest their money in me? What guarantee do they have like that even 1% of that money is going to come back to them? And I did not have a huge social media following where all my followers are going to get my book and give profits to the publisher. That also wasn't going to happen. So what I did was, after I got those awards, fortunately for me, before I sent that draft to them itself, I got all these 5 awards. And in my bio, I attached the name of these awards and I sent them. Trust me, till my book was launched, like a few months later, they never knew my name. They used to call me the award girl. They said like, that girl whose book had won awards. No? That's how they used to call me.
That's quite interesting.
That's all. They didn't know. If I call them and say, I'm Sredhanea, I'm calling, they'll say, who? I'll say like that award, that book that got that award. Okay, tell me. That's how they used to talk to me. Until my book was actually printed, they used to still call me the award girl and not Sredhanea. So this was a technique that worked for me. So if you, because you don't have any traction in this industry before your first book is published, you are still a nobody for the world. So you will have to somehow find, some kind of authenticity and some kind of, some authorization, something which is connected to this industry that will give your book that push.
That is true. That's something all new authors must understand.
Yes, all new authors should understand, because nowadays it is too much, authenticity is driven by the number of followers you have. I think that is something that is ruining many realistic people who are trying with different fields. Not only with writing. The first question comes, where are the number of followers?
Exactly.
So, that is a brilliant idea that Sredhanea gave, and many people can
send it out to, please send it out to many, nominate yourself to many things, and don't get bogged down if you're not selected, because I mean, like, there are going to be tens and thousands of authors who are doing the same thing. Like, all of us have stories inside us. There is an author in every corner of the world, not necessarily published, but there is an author, there is someone who writes. So they all are going to do the exact same things that you're doing. So wait for your chance. I'm sure if you don't get like 5 in the 20, then apply for 50, so you will at least get 5. So keep applying, keep keep in touch, keep doing that little stuff. It's not at all and understand that it's you who they are putting the trust on before they put that trust on the book. So you have to first make yourself sellable. And your saleability comes from these things only, these sides, like the social media, like the awards and all that. So if you get this right, then I think that leads a better path for your book to get published.
And I think your publisher made the right choice. This is what every publisher expects from an author. This responsibility. This is a responsibility that one author shows to their book. This is what you show. This is a responsibility that you show towards your book. You just don't just write the book. You also show a responsibility towards it. position it well in front of the publisher also, because the publisher is the first reader of your book, in fact, the outside of your circle, you know. So I think young authors should take a look, take a it.
I
Especially,
hear
you
this
know,
say that,
yeah,
many authors
yes,
say that, my book is my baby, my book is my baby, my book is my baby.
mm,
And your baby, just because you delivered it, will not be your baby. You have to take care of it
absolutely,
till its
take
Yes,
care
last
of
yes.
it.
day. It
You
is
have to
your
put
baby.
it out in the
So,
world in the right
yes.
way and give
And
it
just
wings
be,
so that people notice it. Yeah,
exactly.
so
And
true.
and it doesn't end. It doesn't even end with your book getting published. Trust me, it doesn't end with that also. Because I am
Yes,
still sending my book out to reviewers. I'm still paying reviewers. I'm still doing so much stuff. Like I have like a plan of to like 2 reviews per month. And like two things.
wow.
I have like that plan for myself. Like I will have
Mm,
like at least
mm,
2 people review my book per month. So
mm,
I have a
mm.
plan. I even set out amount every month so that I can pay them, because reviews
Very
also
good,
come with money only every month. It's not like no
very
one
good.
is doing it for free. So you do that. You keep
Yes,
doing that consistently. Even if your third book is published, you still separately give some importance to your first book, because that is what brought you up as an author, right? You still have to keep little bit of time and effort in that. And you never know like
and you
when the book
have,
is going to become a hit. When your fourth book is ready,
yes,
maybe that time your first book will become like a huge hit out of nowhere. And that comes
that's a very
only when
good
you
point.
keep
Yeah,
consistently keep doing
indeed,
these little things.
very good. You have presently 39 ratings on Amazon. Very good ratings considering present policy of Amazon. Because being an author, I know that. And congratulations on that. And those reviews are awesome. Some of those reviews, you know, I myself reviewed the book and enjoyed it thoroughly. Enjoyed it thoroughly. There is
Thank
no,
you.
it's not an exaggeration that the book is good. This is a very enjoyable book. And one thing that I was thinking about, the amount of research, you made it seem very simple, the process of writing and all, but I know that this is only the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly.
Because this book begins with a scene where two people are talking to each other. All right, fine, that's a good thing. But who are those two people? Cyril Radcliffe and Christopher Beaumont. Those people are not just the characters of this book, those people are historical figures, like people who did the partition, India, Pakistan. Now those people are coming here talking, and that's not a simple conversation. You have to like put those characters upon piles and piles of documents and historical researches and everything. So how did you make that happen? That was like when I read it, you know, I googled it up to be sure that these are the two guys that you're talking about, you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
And I realized the amount of research that must have gone into it. So enlighten us with it, or at least tell us. We are not asking you to reveal all your writerly tricks, you know,
No, 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 no.
or everything from
I'm
your,
absolutely
yeah.
fine with keeping all metrics
But for
open,
the new
because,
authors, it will be like a great learning
of course,
experience.
of course,
Because
of
in
course.
Writers Kalam Publishing, we not just believe in publishing books, but we also believe in cultivating a good literary culture and habit.
Sure.
So it'll be helpful. And one more thing that I'd like to add here is, you mentioned that there is a writer in every corner. I believed in that also. But I realized one thing when I became a publisher myself. And the thing that I realized was that in India, especially I'm talking about the Indian context, okay, there are writers, that is true. There are unpublished writers, that is true. But I've seen that storytellers are very rare. Writers who write short fiction or novels are really, the number is really small. So if you are a short story writer, those who are listening to us right now, if you're a short story writer, if you're a novelist, if you're someone who can write in prose, the world is waiting for you, because there are writers in India, so many of them, but I think 90% of them write poetry, I think, and it's not a bad thing. It's a great idea, writing poetry. But to find writers who can convey ideas through prose is very less in number. Number is less, and it's a daunting task also to write prose, write short stories and novels. So enlighten us in both these areas, history, and how did you put history in a fiction format? Because the novel throughout its journey, from start to finish, it rests upon a particular period of time, you know. So how did you manage that, combining history and writing fiction?
So I'll give you like a gist of what the story is about, so you'll understand the context, all of you listeners. The story is about a family that is separated during partition, like a father and son are separated during partition in 1947. The father goes on to become a part of the Pakistani army, and the son lives back in India and is part of the Indian army. And they both meet each other on opposite sides in 1971 war, where India fights for the independence of Bangladesh. So the father is on the Pakistani side and the son is on the Indian side, and they face each other in the war zone, you know, on that day during Bangladesh war. This is the story, and what happens before, after, and middle. All this is the part of the chord. This is what the chord is about. So talking about how I brought in history into this, what was the research that went behind it. Two things I would like to tell you. Most of my research, empirical, all my factual research, like the basic timeline, who were all there, who did what, and all that. Fortunately, because I was an UPSC aspirant, that history was like like a major part of UPSC. I had that covered. And another thing that helps me with this is UPSC, like the history books, like the academic history books will give you like a line. It will just tell me like the Radcliffe line was drawn by Radcliffe, Cyril Radcliffe, who was a judge. That's all. But Christopher Beaumont's name, how I got to know is I would take this one line from my history book, then I will go research much deeper on Google only. I did not go anywhere else. Google Baba is there for all of us. It's the same Google. My Google is the same. Your Google. All of us are using the same. So I went to Google. I would research. I would also read other authors who wrote like short stories or any theme-based novels around this area and time, because there'll be little snippets of information in those things also. Through the fiction, there will be a little bit of, every fiction has a little bit of non-fiction, right? All fiction has a little bit of truth. So there'll be little truth. And I had like, let's say when I was reading about Christopher Beaumont or like Radcliffe, when I was reading it on Google, I understood that Radcliffe had never been to India. He was not a cartographer. Okay, he was not even a geographer. He was a judge. He had never visited India. And he was made to draw the borders between India and Pakistan, and it infuriated me. It was like, I was angry. I was like, what nonsense have these people done to us, right? I mean, it's like you bringing like a professor and asking him to milk the cow, right? That's what they've done. So, and for me it was, and this for me, because it felt like a really strong emotion, and I realized that this was an emotion that every Indian would feel if they knew this emotion, what was behind. And it was drawn the Radcliffe line was drawn so haphazardly, like they were like the Britishers made like a commission which contained a few Indian judges and a few like Muslim. It was not India and Pakistan then; it was Congress and it was Muslim League. So few Congress, INC related judges and few Muslim League judges, and all 6 of them made that commission. It was. If you read that chapter, you will know how haphazard that decision of which part should go to India and which part should go to Pakistan was made. And through this entire, and when I was reading through Google and when I was reading these little books, I had found that Mr. Radcliffe, Cyril Radcliffe was just a huge drunk, and he was always drinking. I even got to know what type of and when I knew that he was a drunk, I went online and searched, because India was not selling liquor at that time. We did not have like imported liquor. So I realized that somehow liquor because I knew he was from Ireland. I went and researched what type of liquor and which brand was very famous at that time, and which was shipped out. And I also
Wow.
researched that usually liquor was drunk, was had with ice. India did not have ice. We did
Yes.
not have ice cubes. Do you know that
Mm.
ice was shipped from Britain to India?
No.
They used to send ships and ships of ice just for liquor.
Wow. Wow.
So
Excellent.
this is the side researches I had to do, like understand like what, because in that chapter like Cyril Ratcliffe would ask Beaumont like to get me this brand of whiskey, because I knew
Mm.
where he was born. I knew where he was born, and usually liquor is like based on like that area. Spain has its own liquor.
Mm.
Ireland in that area, different parts of Ireland has. So I found that like if he was born in this part of Ireland, then he must have slanted towards this type of liquor. So I went through.
Mm.
I went. This is how so that one line was UPSC and others were like me being me, looking at that and understanding. Okay, so if it's like, so what type of glass he should hold in hand? And I even went to a point where I researched if he was a left-hander or a right-hander, so I know which hand he hold the glass, because his entire role
That's
in that chapter was him
interesting.
drinking. But
Mm. Yes.
I didn't find that information though. I was searching for it. I didn't find that information because I wanted that.
Mm.
Because his entire goal was to hold that glass in one hand. That's all he did. While the Radcliffe line
Yes.
was
Yes.
drawn,
Yes.
Mr. Cyril Radcliffe was just standing there drinking liquor. That's all he did.
Mm.
So my research was like this. So what I'd request any aspiring author or anyone who writes or anyone who even understands this this type of awareness or like this type of attention to detail should not start when you start writing. You should just, whenever you look at your own parents also, look at what they are doing. Don't look at what your mother is going to give you for lunch. Look at like how she cooks a particular dish, which hand she uses, how she turns to look at you
Yes.
when she says come eat with me, or like what how high her pitch is. All this, when you
Mm.
notice, you will start putting this into your character. Every time you imagine a character, imagine them with all these. Don't just imagine their backstory and
Yes.
what they're going to do in the book alone. Just look at them and see like what color would suit. You will know like certain things like let's say there is a when I have my like the antagonist and the protagonist, and there is this main girl character whose
Yes.
name is Sunaina. When I write Sunaina, I know her complexion, I know the length of her hair, so I would not describe her beautiful in every chapter, but there will be a, because I know the complexion and I know her eye color, I will know which color dress would look very good on her, and when she wears that dress, I will make the man call her beautiful, right?
Yes.
So you
It
you
was
do
there.
that, you understand everything about that character, and for that you have to notice the people around you. That's all. Nothing big. You notice yourself also. You see how you are talking
Wow.
as a person, how you are doing things, and you just do that to your character. Each of it, at least the main ones. The side ones, they just part of the story. They're just going to come and go, leave them. So the main 5 or 6 characters do this type of like so much side things.
Mm.
And what was the other question, Mr. Arunat? I'm very sorry. You asked me another question, right?
Yeah, I think you answered it, but it was like, how did you combine history with
Yes.
fiction,
Yes, yes.
the
So
pattern of novel?
I've answered that also, I think.
How did you embed the history into the novel? I think that was answered also.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Fantastic, fantastic. Because I still remember, I mean, some characters, I still remember their memories like they were real people. I feel like they were real people,
Yes.
and I was part of their journey also. And the reason why I think now I understand the reason why I was feeling that is because of the research that went into it, because of the way she has etched those lives on those pages, using those few number of words. She hasn't used a lot of words to explain those characters. It is a learning experience for any writer, I must say. And I still remember that scene where, was it Sunaina who was walking with that guy in the park or something? There was a
Yes,
park
yes,
scene, right?
yes.
Were there
Sredhanea.
halwa or jalebi or something they
Yeah.
were having?
Yeah.
And they went into the army quarters, army area.
They were having
You know,
biryani. They were having biryani.
yeah, yeah, biryani, yeah, yeah, yeah. And
So this
yeah,
this
that was.
also was part of my research because I was searching for which were
Mm,
the shops which were open before 1947, which
yes,
is around the India, like the Delhi cantonment.
yes.
So I made these
Uh,
guys go sit there again, so
it
that
was in Delhi, right?
yeah, it's in
It was
Delhi
in Delhi.
cantonment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
This
very good. And we
this
have a new anthology coming up, Delhi anthology, in which we are inviting stories about Delhi, stories, poems, essays, research articles about Delhi. I'm just mentioning it for our audience, so they can also submit. Yeah. So continue, Sredhanea, continue.
Yeah, this I think
Please
has
continue.
come this
Mm,
attention to the minutest detail. I think I did not learn it on my own. I have stolen. I
mm,
have let's say I was inspired by Mr. Dan Brown so much that I had to do this too.
mm.
Because Dan Brown's I love Dan Brown
Yes,
because his 800
yes,
page book would be about one day. I mean the genius
yes,
of that man, seriously.
yes,
And
yes.
I used to feel like how
Yes.
can you write 800 pages about just one day, just
About
one
one
character,
day.
and he will tell you like when you turn this into the street, what is the first shop,
Mm,
what is on the left hand
mm,
side, and how many steps you take to the next everything. That man is one
mm.
creative genius, and I used to love his book so much since I was in college. That is why I think
Absolutely.
I am attached to this, like littlest things. He even mentioned
Yes.
how the
Absolutely.
lemon is being cut by a vendor like 10 streets, ten shops away.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I think I know
Regarding the.
Vatican City as much as the Pope does after having
Oh
read
yeah. Absolutely.
because
Yes, that is the beauty of writers. And
yes,
even while
Absolutely.
you're narrating it, Sredhanya, it is I can actually can feel it. Even if I'm hearing the snippets of the book, definitely
Mm,
everybody should read it. And it is so like nowadays we're having so many self-help books, but
Yes.
it is very nice and yes, definitely all the readers just go and buy this book because it will make you more intellectual while reading it, like just Sir said when he read about Daniel Radcliffe and he just googled it, he wanted to learn more about it and the minor details, and I think that is the beauty of writing. And I'm totally able to understand why it must have taken you so many years because you were researching so much on it and you must be putting everything on the page on in the writings, and suddenly it would have turned into something like a mega researched novel. But definitely in future you should come up with it. I think many readers would love to
you
read it.
should write. You should be writing an 800-page book. That is what
Yes,
I am
yes,
also
yes.
suggesting. Like Ma'am
Same,
said.
same, because I really love to read these political science and the
Yeah.
historic ones. Yeah, yes. It
History,
is
politics,
something
everything
different.
coming
It is
together.
a different
It's
thing on the
intriguing.
platter
Yeah.
after self-help books, and
Indeed.
yes,
Yeah.
it is
And I think in
amazing.
India, right, yes, as Sridhanaya pointed out, I think the first preference for every new writer would be to go after all the prominent authors, because in India, I think the culture is usually demanding smaller books. Smaller books sell a lot. That was how, Indian literature, Indian publishing scene has worked ever since the independence, I guess, or even before that. I've heard writers speak even before the older writers of older generation talk about how smaller books sell more. There's a tendency of selling more books which are smaller in size, a lesser number of pages. That is there. But I think the tide might be turning. That is something we have to understand. And so, Sridhanaya, we all suggest from Writers Kalam Publishing that you should be writing longer books.
Yes, yes,
And
definitely.
we do
We
have
will.
really big bookshelves here. We can definitely accommodate your works as well.
sure.
And
Thank you
like
so much.
ma'am said, like Ankush ma'am just suggested, we
Yes,
have made an
I.
addition.
Yeah, yes.
We have a
I.
surprise for our readers,
Yes.
our audience.
Yes.
We have, if you want to purchase Sri Dhaneya's book, The Code, you can now get it from the link in our bio. In my bio, you have that link. You can get the code at 14% off from Amazon. The link is given in my bio. You can right now check out my bio and get a copy of the book, The Code,
Thank you. This is
right
a
away.
surprise for me too. Thank you so much.
Yes, it is all
Yes.
done set. Yes,
Yeah.
and we are also giving another offer. If any of our readers buys the book, reviews it, your review we will publish in one of our upcoming issues of our journal. So you are welcome to send your reviews up. We will be publishing the best review, the well-written review, the best ones in our journal.
Thank you so much for doing this for the card. And Anunalji, I don't think in the entire world anyone would write a better review for my book than you. I've loved
Thank you.
his reviews so much. Everywhere I go, I tell like I never knew reviewing could be this this lengthy a process and this meticulous a process until I read his review. Because I also review books. I also read other authors' books and review. But I have never done it in his state. In his, how much effort he puts into that, I cannot imagine. So,
Reviews, I think book reviewing is also an art.
yeah.
And for the new reviewers, I always suggest that. I always suggest the new reviewers, just keep it in mind. It's an art. Take it very lightly. Take it very delicately. Don't ruin the artistic element from a review. Reviews not just like a book reviews or even film reviews for that matter, or music reviews. When you review art, the review should also be reflective of art in its shape, in its structure. If you're reviewing, for example, say a toothpaste or a watch or a mobile phone, I mean, that is up to you. I mean, that is a different kind of review, a product review simply in terms of how a product works or something like that. But when you're reviewing art, in literary art or music or films, I think reviews should also carry that artistic element. That's my principle. I always stick to it. And I always make it a point and that is a problem also because I'm having difficulty in finding time to review some really great work that I've read, because it takes a lot of time. So yeah, there's a negative side to it, by the way. That is the negative side. You don't find time. Anyway, so yeah. And it was like when I was going through the review also, I was going through my own review. I have made some connections with the existing masters of fiction with your work. And one of the points that I have quoted in it is Milan Kundera's quotation, which I always love. The novel is a meditation on existence as seen through the medium of imaginary characters. A meditation on existence, an existential meditation. That is, according to Milan Kundera, in his Art of the Novel, he calls novel a meditation on existence. So Sredhanea as an author, as a young author, as an author of historiographic, romantic and political fiction, if I can put it that way, what do you think is the function of the novel? What do you think? What is your point here?
Absolutely. So I had this is something that I want to tell authors. Use your novel to answer your own questions. I did not write my novel so that people can find meaning out of it or people can get answers for their questions. I personally had 3 questions in me depending on that time. And I wanted to live through my characters so I can find those answers for myself. Yeah, so that was the only aim of my writing the code. And those 3 questions, because you've read my novel, I'm very sure you'll understand. See, the novel is set in 1947 when there is a partition where India was British India, and it is partitioned. Like overnight, they have told us what they did was they partitioned India into India and Pakistan, and they sent a few troops from India. They just segregated the troops also, 4 or 5 regiments to Pakistan and 10 regiments to India. Like they were segregating like the spoons and the arms and ammunition. They segregated the troops also. Therein, people had the choice to not opt for it, but they still were segregated that way. 8 Punjab division something go to Pakistan. That's how they had segregated it. And to me, when we say like, patriotism, patriotism, I didn't understand what patriotism would have meant to a soldier at that point in time. 1947, let's say I was a British Indian soldier and I was made to leave India and go to Pakistan. Tell me, where does my patriotism lie? Does it lie with my, generational, superiors, that is the Britishers, who were controlling me till now, who were my masters, and they were telling me, they were the head of, they were my major, they were my lieutenant. So will I be patriotic to them? Or would I be patriotic to the land that fed me, which was India? Or because I come from an Islamic background and because Pakistan was formed completely based on religious lines, my patriotism would lie to that country. Where will my patriotism lie? And I had no answers for this. So what I made was, I made 3 characters, each representing each of these 3 things, so that people can derive patriotism in whichever they want from this. I have presented 3 different answers to you, which my mind came up with, and I let the reader take whichever definition of patriotism suits best to me, right? So this was one thing. This was one main aim, and the second aim of writing the story was, whenever I read partition stories, whenever I read stories about history of India at that time or about soldiers, every single story in the name of patriotism, in the name of the struggle, the blood, the gory, the chaos, they had forgotten the normalcy that people would have gone through even during all that. Yes, there was blood. Yes, there were tears. Yes, people were running for their lives. But we were all still falling in love. We were all still eating all 3 meals a day. We were all still doing all the normal stuff that life puts us through. And I did not find that in any book. And for me, it felt like a really, this is something I wish every government does to its soldiers. And all citizens also do to our soldiers. In the name of patriotism, in the name of, calling them brave and strong, let's not forget they're also humans. They also have usual emotions that we all go through. They also love their mother, father. They also love their wife or children, whoever. They still have those same basal emotions that all of us have. And I have never read that in books. It's always about the bravery. It's always about the brotherhood of soldiers. Why can't a soldier just love his wife so much that he doesn't want to leave for war that day? Don't you think, like, in all the wars that were fought in like so many centuries in the entire world, there was even one soldier who thought, like, I don't want to go to war today, I want to live, I want to stay back. Yes, he's patriotic, yes, he loves his country, but he's still a human being. And wouldn't like any soldier in anywhere in the world ever think that the opposite side, like, let's even take today Russia, Ukraine, but they are still brothers. They were still the same. They were still around. They still live together. They used to live together. So wouldn't, like, even one soldier of the millions who are killing each other looked at the person opposite him and think, I was just sharing a meal with him last night. How am I supposed to kill him? Right? So these emotions were never ever mentioned because it was silenced in the name of patriotism and brotherhood and being a valiant soldier and being a brave soul. No, they still have these emotions. Maybe they are handling it better, maybe somehow they are able to squish it down, but the mind will always have these thoughts. And this I think I have, because Mr. Lal has read my story, I think I brought out in my one letter where a father-in-law writes to his son-in-law who goes to war for the first time, you love your country. Wouldn't you for a minute wish that your son-in-law doesn't lose his life in that war for the sake of your own child? Yes. Right? So this is a letter between the father-in-law and the son-in-law where the father-in-law says, This is my most favorite line in the story in the entire book, and I loved writing that letter. That letter is one thing I'm proud of in this entire book. I'm very proud of having written that letter, because in that book, in that letter, the father-in-law says, "I wish this war doesn't change you, but I'm not sure what type of a man you will be if it doesn't." So this is something that I had in mind, because they are looking at, they are seeing death, they are seeing blood, they are, leave alone them seeing, they are the reason for all that. Wouldn't that affect them like even 1% And people were saying, and I was talking to people, and people were saying, no, they are not going to be affected. They are trained not to be affected. Yes, they are trained, but they are still human beings. Yes, they might be beautiful soldiers, but what type of people they will be if it doesn't affect them? If you kill a person and if that kill doesn't affect you, then what type of a human being are you?
Oh my God. Yeah.
You might be a huge soldier, you might be a great soldier, but are you a good? At the end of the day, do you feel human? So this was one question that I was nagging me so much, and I had to answer it for myself. So these two are
certain scenes that there are certain scenes that won't leave you after reading the book, and these are one of those, yeah.
and it was very surprising, and it was very heartwarming for me, where there were two readers who were from army families, and they actually texted me and said, "It's so realistic that you have described even the feelings that the wife and the child will have when the man goes to war and comes back a few days. Because when he goes and he kills or gets killed, or he's going through so much, he doesn't come back the same. He's a very different man. He's a very different man. He doesn't treat his wife or his child the same." So, and I have written about that, and they said no one has written about this, and I am so happy that you have even thought this angle to write on, and you have written on it. And I was I said, the awards mean nothing to me. When someone who has lived that situation comes and tell me your fiction is so close to my reality, I think that is the best award I have ever received in my life.
So true. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and coming up with this question, I think most of us, whenever we watch these patriotic shows coming up, and Independence Day, Republic Day, even I have this question, that is it easy for them when their wives go and they are given those awards? It is not easy for them, not even for their kids, because giving them awards and medals is an honor, but still, when everybody has that dream of coming home every day and meeting their kids, staying with their wives. Some get widows even after 2 months of their marriage, even that happens. And some come in really battered condition.
Absolutely.
That also happens. So that is very good and it is actually, I think, the biggest success with the Cord is that you brought it out in the shape of a book, and I'm really thankful to you that you had that courage to 5 years of every day thinking when this book will come out. So what was the reaction when it finally got published, when you were finally that moment came?
Okay, so this might be a little controversial, because every author is I was very excited. I didn't feel anything, Ankush. I felt nothing. I felt nothing. I said, okay, it's published, okay. For me, it was like every other day. It didn't feel like one whole thing. No, I understood the gravity of the situation. I understood that my book has reached a level where it is good enough to be published, which meant my next work is going to have to be much better. Because most of the authors, if you see, I'm seeing, because I'm talking to many authors, Many authors are stuck in this phase where, like, because their first book was well received, they go on to the second book. But many readers come to them and say, your first book was much better. Your first work was much better. This is not as good. Or like, because this one thing, because they became, I'm telling you openly, just because you published one book, there is no guarantee that your second book is going to get published. There is no guarantee that your second book is going to be a success. There is no guarantee that you are an achieved author. No, I am not. I'm still, when I write my second book, I'm still another aspiring author. I am going to have to struggle with every aspiring author around me. Maybe I have like that 1% of a fillip because I have this certain things to show. That 1% of fillip is going to be there, but that is not at all going to affect the quality of my second work or any works I do after that. So for me, it was like, okay, one step up. So how many more things should I do to go the next step up? I think it's more than courage. I am a type of person who likes to finish. For me, more than the book, getting awards and all, for me it was like, so this work is done. Do you understand? I'm not sure if you guys understand what I mean. For me, I like finishing something.
Yes.
It should finish. So until my first book was published, it was not finished for me. So I kept on pushing it. I kept on writing. So for me, when it got published, it was one task done. That's all.
No. That's very wonderful. And I have one more thing for my readers. This is the book Stories from the Soil, and Sredhanea has also contributed in this book. And so what is the take on anthologies, like when you contribute towards anthologies? So like, and especially now you are a published author and your book is doing so well. So what is your take on anthologies?
Okay. I would request all authors, novelists, poets, or whoever you are, to send your works for on. Even if it's a poetry anthology, start sending, because two reasons. One is because when you're doing your bigger projects, and usually people like, we take years to write the next project. So my book, I started writing. I started researching my second book. I started researching it like almost 8 months ago, and I'm still researching. And I'm sure when I start writing, I will take 2 years to finish it. So what that will do is, it will give like almost 3 years of a gap, and people will forget you. And anthologies are a really good way for people to keep remembering you in different phases. And for you, what happens with writing a novel is that the process is too long, and the process is sometimes a little too harrowing and boring. And because you're stuck in that loop of that one story, you feel less creative. There are times when I sit and I think, like, why I'm not getting anything, nothing makes sense in this anymore. That's so when you do that and you just leave that and you write a short story for the anthology, what it gives you a little change. Because you are not writing that same story, you are writing something else, but you are still writing. And trust me, there is this author, like the writer guild that all writers have. Like, when, let's say, we have not written for an entire month or something, our mind will be like, you have not done anything productive this month, as if we do not have lives, right? So to escape that guilt, contribute to anthologies.
It's a wonderful point.
Yes, that is a wonderful point. And all the readers and aspiring authors, it is always good to make a start. Then why not with anthologies itself? Like, there's so many writers, they are very scared to start out with the book. At the same time, they have this dream to be the next big thing. And like Sredhanea told, that it is not easy process. The journey doesn't end once the book comes out. The journey starts, and the journey is to bring that book in front of everybody and to advertise it more. And so there's a huge process, and every book has its different journey. So yes, anthologies are the best sources, and in Writers Kalam we are coming up with so many opportunities for all the writers and all the readers also, because I believe in every reader there is a writer. At least they would have scribbled something in their lives. But I'll just request Sredhanea that do come up with your book in future, that of 800, because I'm going to be the first one at least to buy it. I have that greed for thick
Sure.
books.
The second book that I'm working on is a book on tribes of India. There is a particular
I think there is a minor disconnection there.
There's some technical
Minor
error.
disconnection there. Maybe it's a technical issue. So our audience would like to remind that the Holistic Pine is India's first independently published international monthly lifestyle journal. And you can also write for the journal, write your researched articles to the journal, and send it to theholisticpine@gmail.com. We will take a look at it. And like we already mentioned, if you are a fan of novels, if you would like to read books and short stories, go check out Sredhanea's book, The Code. Link is given in the bio. Also read her short story, latest short story run in the book, Stories from the Soil. Link is also in the bio. You can check out the book in the bookstore, Writers Kalam bookstore, which is attached with the link in bio. Sredhanea, regarding Sredhanea, even though we discussed, most of the time we spent discussing her novel, one of the prominent aspects of her as a writer that I found personally was that she's equally competent in writing short stories also.
Yes,
You know,
she
the
is. And she
short
writes
story is
beautifully, yes. And even I had one, yes.
Yeah, reminds us of, when I read it, it was like there was a twist at the end, an unexpected turn at the end, and she was not giving every detail to the writer. She also, sorry, to the reader, but she was also giving like only enough information with a very minimalistic approach in usage of words. And she's creating a beautiful picture of a countryside, South Indian countryside, in which two boys are on an adventure and they get stuck somewhere. And from that place, how they come out, that's the whole story of the run. And it's a thrilling story also. And as I said in the beginning, it's also like a story that is centered around the unspoken things in human life. For example, the human defecation and all that. So it's very interesting take. Ma'am, you were saying something. Please continue.
Yes, I'm so sorry to cut you, but I wanted to tell all our viewers that Sredhanea is going to be a part of the Tribute VIP edition. So if you want to know more about it, do grab the copies and they are going to come in future. And if you want to be a part of it, you do send in your stories. We do have slots open. And the idea behind coming with the Tribute edition was that there were so many women especially who wanted to share the story in the Holistic Pine, but since we have just one story or one interview that is there, we came up with this idea of the Tribute edition where you can share your story. And Sredhanea is somebody who is so inspiring because like women who multitask, she is doing so many things. She is a food technologist, she is an author, and she does contribute to various anthologies, and she has her own show, the Love of Literature show, that she co-hosts with Jayanti ji. She has so much to offer, and I think she is truly inspirational because when in life, when we make this choice of choosing between career and our passions, we always think of doing it later. Let's do it later. And it is really brave of her, I would say, to come up with such an intellectual piece or a masterpiece, I would say, The God, because in her narrative there was so much to learn, and it is my humble request to all the readers to do buy her copy and go through the link, buy the copy, because The God is going to be something that will add more to your intellect, to your literary knowledge, and definitely the minor details that she's covered. So we have Sredhanea back.
And
I'm so
readers
sorry, there was
to
some
discover
technical
short
issue here.
story. No problem at all. We were talking about your short story run in the meantime, and we were saying that even though you have written a wonderful novel, your novel writing skills are already evident. Still, you are even better in short stories. As a writer, you are equally talented, if not more equally talented in writing short stories. And Run is the evidence for that, because the story beautifully combines village life with a thrilling and at the same time humorous narrative about two boys having an adventure, and then one of them gets stuck, and then at the end of it there is a twist that takes us to a very humorous ending to that story. And tell us about your short story journey or your short story writing career,
Okay.
because as a reader it seems that your novel is enjoyable, excellent, historically relevant. I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. And your short story, when I read it, you're equally talented in that art also. So how do you manage both, and
Okay.
what exactly is your secret? How do you look at the art of the short story?
Personally, see, novel writing, because you take longer time and because it's you are focused on one genre. I
You there?
Yes, I think there's some technical error.
Yeah,
We can
there's
definitely
some
wait for
technical
her.
error. Sure. Regarding uh, Run, what I found very interesting was that this short story reminded me of O. Henry and those classical masters, because there was that beautiful twist at the end, which surprises and at the same time ties everything together at the end. So those classical, narrative styles. So that is what I felt when I read Run, the short story by Sredhanea. Being a short story writer myself, I've written more number of short stories than novels. I've written only one novel, and I'm not very proud of that either. But still, understanding the perspective of characters and bringing them to life and tying everything together, certain events of life, their journey, and at the end of it, an epiphany, an understanding. All of these together in a very limited space. That is a very important, uh, very important skill, I would say. That's a very important skill, and Sredhanaya has mastered it, as is evident from this particular short story Run, which is published in Stories from the Soil. So, yeah, Sredhanaya, you're back.
yeah.
Happy to see you back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you had asked me about how I write short stories despite of
short
drawing
story.
novel. Yeah. I like,
How do you look at it? Yes.
for me,
Yes.
short stories is a way of trying new stuff, trying new genres, and trying new techniques. Trust me, I am a very, very serious person by nature. I am not a humorous person. I am not a funny person. And Run was a challenge that I had given myself, like, let me try humor. Let me try if it comes to me. So that
Yes.
was one trial. And I
Yes.
have been writing short stories for other anthologies also, where where I have written like other genres.
There may be a diversity issue.
There will be diversity in my writing. I don't want to be called a historical fiction author. I am not a historical fiction author. I'm author, that's all. I'm an author. I should be able to write.
There is a network issue, I think. Hopefully it'll be resolved soon. There is a small network issue. Hello. hopefully we'll be getting her back soon. And we were talking about Run, the short story written by Sredhanea Ramakrishnan in the book Stories from the Soil, which is a book about short stories on villages in India. A very good book, very beautiful book, beautifully arranged and compiled by Ankush Bharti, a very talented author and chief editor of the Holistic Pine. See, the very art of the short story, I think the balance between words and ideas, to achieve that, I think that's what needs a lot of effort. And Sredhanea has balanced it very well, quite well in that anthology. You can find short stories from many renowned authors like Jayanti Shankar, Ankush Bharti herself, in that particular anthology, Stories from the Soil. I have written the foreword to Stories from the Soil. But if you are a reader who wants to read a very enjoyable anthology, enjoyable collection of stories, just to pass time, or just to seriously think about village life in India, or seriously delve into reading serious literature, you can get a copy of that book from our store. The link is given in the bio. You can go through the bio and you can see bookstore, Writers Kalam Publishing. You can get Stories from the Soil from our bookstore. Sredhanea is back. So we were talking about short stories. Sredhanea, any few words about your journey as a short story writer? Do you plan to write short stories in the future also? Sredhanea, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. I didn't get your questions. Can you repeat it?
Are you planning to write short stories in the future also?
Absolutely. Short stories are the only things that keep my mind off the serious fictional, novel writing. So I would keep write. I would write. It's not. I mean, I don't want to say if I will be writing short stories, if I will be writing novels. I'll just be writing. It will just come in whichever form that moment my mind feels is right, and whichever form that genre or that thought or that plot demands it to be. That's all. I don't know if I'm a short story writer or a author of a book or a novelist or a poet. Nothing. I'm just a writer, and the form in which it is going to be expressed is going to be decided by the plot, the time I have, and which will work better. That's all. It's not at all about me.
Okay, no, our conversation has gone on for more than an hour now. It's inching into more than almost 1.5 hours. So let's now wind up this conversation. And I'm sure that our audience, and especially if there are new writers who are venturing into the world of writing and publishing, and also experienced writers, must have found very useful and very enlightening, inspiring tips and strategies and writing-related inspiration from this humble live discussion. I'm saying humble just to express the fact that we are humble people here. The content of the discussion was heavy, by the way. It's not humble though. The discussion was heavy today. We discussed a lot of issues, a lot of ideas, patriotism, from patriotism to the art of the novel, and a lot of things in between. The art of short story also we have touched upon. So our audience can get a copy of Sredhanea's book from the link in the bio. Her short story is also given in the link in the bio. You can get a copy of her short story Run from the link. Get a copy. If you review, this is an offer that we give our audiences. If you get a copy of Sredhanea's book, The Code, and review it, send it to us at theholisticpine@gmail.com. And we will publish the really good reviews in the upcoming issues of the Holistic Pine monthly lifestyle journey. So Sredhanea, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and being a part of the Holistic Pine live talk show. We are indebted to your presence, and your works are excellent. Such a pleasure to read them, and to meet them once again through such a conversation was also nourishing and enriching as a reader and as a writer as well. I'm sure my team also feels the same. Do you have any final words?
Yes,
Thank you
Sredhanaya, it
so
was
much.
wonderful to have you today, and whatever you shared today about your book and how you managed so many things, the company you set up, in spite of that, you were managing writing. It is a perfect example that sky is the limit, and especially if you are in the field of writing, don't give up. Start with baby steps and just let out yourself free to whatever opportunities are there, and definitely you're going to make big one day. And Sredhanaya is the biggest example, and do buy her copy. Sir will be putting the link for everybody. And thank you so much, Sredhanaya.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much,
much,
Ramkrishnan.
Ramkrishnan. Thank you, Neha. Thank you, Lal sir. I would like to have like uh, just leave the conversation with one note. I am very grateful to Lal sir for having, he's beautifully put me into, like, every single wing that every single feather is there in his wing. He tries to embrace the people that that the author community and the literary community brings towards him. And I'm so happy that I'm one of those feathers that he's, decided to embrace. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so grateful that we both got to know each other through love of literature. And you wrote that amazing review for my book, and I would forever be grateful to you. Thank you so much, Lal sir. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Writers Kalam, for giving me the opportunity to write Run. And I'm very sure I will keep contributing to your anthologies, whichever anthology you come up with, as long as I
Thanks
have the
so
time.
much.
I'm
That
very
is
sure. I'm
wonderful.
very sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Keep writing. So, guys, that was Sredhanea Ramakrishnan, author of The Cord, a novel that wonderfully portrays emotions, history, politics, everything related to the partition period. And there is drama, there is romance, there is emotion. It's a wonderful read. I read it myself and I reviewed it in my blog. You can check it out. I'll add the link in bio later. Okay. Now, if you want to read the book, you can get it from the link in bio. You can also read her short story, which I highly recommend because that is a really good work. It is also given in the link in bio. So I think it's time for us to wind up now. We'll meet you on another day. Probably I'm planning to meet you tomorrow if possible, alone, haunting the Instagram. I'm alone. Probably tomorrow I'll be there, or Writers Column team will be there tomorrow. Right now we haven't decided. We will decide and let you know. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to this channel and like it, like the video, share it with your friends and whoever is interested in writing books or reading books. Please share this video because there is so much in this video that people can learn from, understand from. Especially students and those who are interested in books and writing books, you can get a lot out of this video. Keep sharing and keep reading. If you are someone who enjoys literature, Writers Column Publishing is here for you. If you would like to check out our catalog of books, go to my link and you will find our bookstore link given there. Go to our bookstore, buy any of the books that you would love to read. Okay, we have some amazing books in our bookstore for you. Get your copies right now without wasting time. Okay, so I think it's time to wind up. Thank you so much, guys, Ankush ma'am and Neha. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And thank you, Sredhanaya, once again. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye bye. Take care, everybody.